I'd like to welcome everyone and all of the attendees to our webinar today on to the entry into the Chinese market and intellectual property rights protection, specifically in China. This webinar is being organized through the cooperation of Cetinkaya Attorneys at Law and CHINABRAND IP Consulting. And a few important housekeeping notes to begin with. While the webinar and the presentations itself will focus predominantly on the Chinese market, please feel free at the end of the webinar at the question and answer section to raise any other questions that you might have about other Asian markets, and we'll do our best to answer the points that have been raised. Also, if you have any questions, we have in the Zoom capability, we have the question and answer opportunity. So if you type your questions in the question and answer boxes, then as the panel, we can see them, and then later on in the question and answer section, I'll call upon each of the questions to be able to answer them. So to be able to provide a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today, we'll be talking about particularly entry into the Chinese market and some important legal considerations, particularly considerations regarding intellectual property rights for companies entering into these markets. For Turkish companies, definitely for the previous decades, Asian markets and the Chinese markets in particular were important opportunities for manufacturing and forming business partnerships in terms of importing into Turkey. However, as the Turkish economy has matured and as Asian economies and the consumer bases have matured accordingly, there have been a lot of important opportunities for companies looking to enter and establish in such Asian markets, particularly the Chinese market. And we've seen over the past years a lot of Turkish companies looking to enter into and establish into Chinese markets and the Asian markets. And we've seen in terms of Turkish companies and the specific strengths of Turkish companies, that a lot of the strong economics and strong industry bases of Turkish companies suit well into expansion into these areas, particularly looking at construction industry, confectionery, foodstuffs, and textiles in particular. So as Turkish companies have looked to establish and move into the Chinese markets and into the Asian markets, obviously the opportunities there have become quite apparent. The cultural fit has become quite apparent. But as a counterbalance to these important beneficial aspects, there have also been a number of questions and considerations and concerns that these Turkish companies have had, particularly in terms of ease of establishment, any barriers or hurdles to market entry and market establishment, and most importantly, for any company looking to establish or looking to enter into a new market, regardless of geography, its considerations and concerns regarding the protection of rights and the capacity that they will have when they enter into these Asian markets as to what degree their rights will be protected and to what other areas of concern and consideration they should pay attention to before entering into these markets. And we're very lucky to be joined by two distinguished speakers from CHINABRAND IP Consulting, Liu Liu and Xiao Liao, who will be talking about some of the matters that we've raised. As I said, we'll be first having their presentation on these two central themes, and then proceeding on to a summation and question and answer. So if you have any question and answers, please, as I said, write them into the Q&A boxes, and towards the end of the session, when we proceed into that part, I will be bringing up those questions. So without further ado, I'd like to pass on to Liu Liu, who will be talking into the entry into the Chinese markets.
Okay, thank you very much, Bentley. Good afternoon. I'm really glad to have this chance to work with Cetinkaya and talk about IP protection and also market entry into China in this webinar. And at first, I'd like to make a short introduction of us. My name is Hao Liao, and I'm a consultant at the German consulting company CHINABRAND. And I have master's degrees both from Germany and China, and I have also passed the bar exam in China. Together with me is my colleague Liu Liu, who is also a consultant of us. And our company is an international company and a service provider focused on combating fake products, protecting IP rights, and also cybersecurity and data protection, as well as other projects related with China. In this webinar, we have two different topics. The first topic is about enter into Chinese market, and my colleague Liu will take over this part. So now my colleague Liu will talk about this.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liu. Thank you, Zihao, and thank you, Bentley. As Bentley has already made a good introduction into especially the entry into China, I think there's no need to mention how attractive Chinese market is. So let's just go straight to the point, the market entry into China. Since the entry of the foreign investment law on January 1st, 2020, the market entry barriers into China have been greatly lowered. I want to introduce that China adopts negative list to control foreign investment. Negative list specify some industries in which foreign investment is totally prohibited or partially restricted. And it means the shorter the negative list is, the fewer the industries controlled and the more options for foreign investment will be. And outside of the negative list, the foreign investors can enjoy the pre-entry national treatment. For example, before the establishment of foreign-owned enterprise in China, foreign investors don't need to get approved by the Ministry of Commerce as before. And this time, nowadays, these foreign investors will be treated as Chinese national enterprises. So it's a must to check the negative list before the market entry. There are 3 types of negative lists to check, as you can see in the slide. And every year this negative list will be renewed, and in recent years Chinese government has reduced the numbers specified in the negative list, which means that the market barriers entry into China have been widely lowered. As China is controlling the foreign investment in some industries, China is in the same time encouraging some foreign investment in some other industries. If you want to seek for some investment opportunities, you need to check first the catalog of industries for encouraging foreign investment. This catalog also specifies some industries in which foreign investment is promoted and encouraged. If your industry is one of which, you can, for example, you can get some support from the Chinese government. You can enjoy some tax preferences and tax reductions, etc. There are also 2 kinds of catalogs. One catalog is published by the Chinese central government, and the other one is published by the local governments of free trade zones. Normally, the catalog of the free trade zones has more industries. For example, Hainan Free Trade Zone has a special catalog that specifies 143 additional industries compared to the catalog published by the Chinese central government. And from a practical view, I will also suggest that you can also seek some investment opportunities provided by the local governments, some smaller local governments. For example, some city government or district government, they will also provide some investment opportunities in order to improve their GDP, to provide some jobs to their local people. And in the same time, they also will provide you with some incentives if you invest. And this kind of information is also open to the public. But the thing is, there are too many local governments in China, as China is pretty large. So normally this information is always hidden. I would suggest you turn to a law firm or a consulting company for such information, because these professional lawyers and consultants will deal with the Chinese government in their daily work, so that you can get the full access to such information and never miss out a single investment opportunity. So maybe you will ask, what options do I have for the entry into Chinese market? Traditionally, there are 4 ways. The first is to authorize your brand to Chinese distributors, which is the easiest way and also the most cost-effective way. But it brings risks, for example, the intellectual property risks, and also the breach of contract of your Chinese distributor. The other way is acquisition of Chinese companies. This option normally happens when the target company has some special resources. For example, it has a special license to enter into an industry in China. But this option but the cost for this option will be very high. You need to pay a lot of money to the lawyer and accounting teams. The third option is the joint venture. It happens normally in some specific industries where the foreign investment is restricted and controlled. For example, in the telecommunication business, the foreign investors cannot hold over 50% of shares of the joint venture. And the last option is the foundation of a wholly foreign-owned enterprise. In balance, this is the best way. Since the entry of the foreign investment law, the foundation of such enterprise has been simplified. And if you found such enterprise, you can also get the whole control of your enterprise, and your intellectual property rights will also be controlled by your own. And the last option is a new option, especially in the digital, especially in today, is to cooperate with some Chinese cross-border e-commerce platforms. For B2C companies, this can be a good way to test whether your products can be accepted, can be popular among Chinese consumers, especially before you investing a lot into the Chinese market. You can cooperate, for example, with Tmall Global or JD Worldwide and Tmall.com. An example is that a Turkish brand, Rosensea, they register their Chinese trademark in China and license their trademark to a Chinese distributor. And this Chinese distributor set up a Tmall flagship store so that the products of Rosensea can be sold and imported into China. For a successful entry into Chinese markets, I will suggest make good preparation before the entry. The first is to conduct deep market and industry research. You need to know whether there are full of competitors on Chinese markets. And for B2B companies, it's also necessary to conduct a supplier and customer analysis to find your potential suppliers and customers. And then you can decide where to locate your factory and your company so that the cost for the operation will be the lowest and the benefits will be the most. And the second is to conduct the due diligence and background check against your partners, your employees. For example, you can check the corporate social credit system to check whether your partner is reliable or not. And the investigation against the affiliate companies of your partner is also important to avoid some financial problems. And third, you need to conduct the legal and policy feasibility analysis to check whether your industry is on the list of do's or don'ts. In other words, your industry is encouraged, prohibited, or restricted. And moreover, through such analysis, you can find some investment opportunities provided by the local government, and you can also get the incentives Such information you can get such information through the help of this analysis. And the last but not least, compliance issue is also an issue that you need to pay attention to. With this analysis, you can be guided to conduct compliance to meet the to comply with the Chinese laws and regulations. And I would also suggest pay attention to the localization and the marketing channels in China. Regarding localization, you need to find a perfect Chinese brand name that adapts to the Chinese culture, and also localize your products to meet the needs of Chinese consumers, and also the special standards set by China. And broadening marketing channels is also recommended. Setting up a Chinese official website is just the basis. Making the most of the Chinese e-commerce and new media platforms has been trend in China, which has been adopted by Chinese companies. You can see there are a lot of famous Chinese social media platforms on these two pictures. You may hear from Alibaba, Tmall, and Pinduoduo, and WeChat, and TikTok. For example, in China, on TikTok, there are many Chinese companies promoting their products through TikTok short videos and live webcasts, whatever they are, B2B or B2C. Compare with B2C, B2B for B2B companies, it's always difficult to promote marketing, because it's always difficult to promote your products to your target groups. But with this, with the artificial intelligence and the algorithm of these digital platforms, your content marketing videos and articles will be automatically referred to the target groups after they have reviewed some similar contents. As limited by time, I will pass the microphone to my colleague, as IP issue is also an important issue that you need to consider. If you have any questions, we can discuss later in the Q&A part.
Thank you very much, Liu. Before the foreign companies enters into the Chinese market, it's necessary to understand the possible risk and the current situation of Chinese market. As Liu has just mentioned, one of the most important issues is the protection of IPRs. And here I'd like to give some examples that Turkish companies or Turkish brands are facing in China, so you can understand these problems better. First of all, with the rapid development of e-commerce in China, there are more and more fake products on the platforms, and appearance and sales of fake products are not related to B2C companies, but also B2B companies. And the appearance and sales of those fake products will affect the economic profit of the company, but also the reputation of the company. Here, I'd like to give some examples. For example, the brand Rosens or the brand Caracca and the brand Pina, all of them are facing fake products problem in China. And the second problem about IPR protection in China is about trademark application. For many foreign companies, the IPR problem is not in the field of patent or copyright in China, but the area of trademark. And one of the most important issues is the trademark application in bad faith. Under the first to file principle, the first person or company in China applied to a particular trademark will be the owner of that trademark, which means that many other unrelated companies, and usually Chinese companies, will register intentionally the trademarks of foreign companies in China and to sell them or use them. And under such situation, these companies will take advantage of the urgent need of foreign companies to use this trademark, and then they will deliberately inflate the price of trademark or trademark transfer. Here, I'd like also to give two examples. The first example is a company Jiaxing in Zhongshan City in China, who had registered the trademark Trophy Odoo and Acetylcom appliance, which are similar to the trademarks of Turkish company. And the second example is also a company, Oboer, in Zhongshan City in China. And this company had registered trademarks Breko and Opreko, which are similar to the Turkish brand Beko. It was mentioning that both of these two companies are in Zhongshan City in China, where many counterfeit companies of home appliance are located. Under such situation, China has currently made great efforts to improve the IPR environment and to strengthen IPR protection for companies. It doesn't matter it is domestic company or is foreign companies. And in recent years, China has insisted on equal treatment and equal protection for domestic companies and foreign companies, enabling foreign companies to protect and enforce their IPRs in China better. And those aspects include not only the legislation aspect and jurisdiction, but also the administrative aspect. And in this case, the Chinese government has taken a number of administrative measures to protect the IP rights of all companies. And in addition to these two aspects I just mentioned, there's also another very important development in China. As we all know, China's economic and development of high technology are developing rapidly recently. And this kind of development has helped us to protect IP rights better. And here I will not explicit to explain this, and I will use examples later to explain them better. As I just mentioned, one of the aspects is about administrative measures. And in this respect, China is expanding the impact of corporate social credit system in China. And Chinese corporate social credit systems simply means the Chinese government collects all information of all companies in China based on various ways. And then the government will give all companies a rating based on the collected information. If the rating is high, then the companies will be put on the red list and accordingly be rewarded. But if the rating is low, or if the company has even some bad behavior, such as submitting untrue information to the government, then these companies will be put on the watch list or even blacklisted. And currently, China is working very hard on the corporate social credit system, and the disclosure of fake products is also an important part of that. Here is also an example. The two companies, Tianjin Xingda Medical Trading and Tianjin Kangxin Medical Trading, were blacklisted because they have sold fake products of masks. As I just explained, while the Chinese government has taken so many measures to protect IP rights, on the other hand, foreign companies should also themselves take some positive actions to protect your IP rights in China. And therefore, I will describe here the IP enforcement in China. Generally, the IP enforcement could be divided into 4 steps, namely monitoring, and then evidence preservation, and the legal measures, and the PR. The first step is monitoring, and the first step aims to find where and when your IP rights have been violated in China. In this case, a monitoring program should be conducted at first, and the ways of monitoring include such as online monitoring, field investigation, and also fair monitoring, etc. All of these ways are aiming to find the infringer producing and selling your fake products. And in this case, attention should also be paid to the target companies which had a related relationship with your company or with your products, like your partner company in China or your distributors in China. As Liu just mentioned, there are so many online platforms in China, and currently more and more counterfeit products are also appearing on such platforms. So if we use the humans to check all fake products and online shops, then the cost will be significantly higher. But with the development of AI, we can also use other ways to find such infringers. Currently, so many Chinese companies have developed such AI tool or AI software to help us to find infringers and fake products. Here is also an example that we have come across before. And when you use this tool by entering the keywords or by entering pictures, you can find all fake products online, and also you can find more information about such products. In addition, this kind of tool can also make data analysis or form a report so that you can get more information about such fake products and online shops. For example, you can know where the fake products were sold most in China or how much they were sold already in China. After the targets has been identified, then we have to preserve evidence in order to send warning letters or file lawsuit or take other actions afterwards. And currently, I'm working on anti-counterfeiting projects for European companies. From my own experience, one of the most difficult issues is preserving evidence in China. When compared with several years ago, many target companies have been very cautious now, and they do not allow the investigators or notaries into the factory for a notarized sample purchase. So currently, it's not so easy to preserve evidence. But as I just mentioned, with the development of AI and technology, so many new ways have been created. For example, we can also use timestamp notarization or cloud notarization. The traditional notarization way is to preserve evidence with the help of notary. But if we need help of the notary, they have to make an appointment with the notary, then we need so much time. But with the new kind of notarization like timestamp notarization, we don't need to involve the notary in the notarization process. And this kind of notarization can be conducted by everyone online and is much cheaper than the normal notarization. After the evidence is preserved, then we have to think about legal measures. In addition to send warning letters, we can also find some administrative compliance or e-commerce platform compliance, as well as litigation options. And the administrative measures can stop an ongoing violation, but it cannot bring the compensation. Therefore, if you want to recover the financial losses because of the infringement, you have to file a lawsuit. And some IP right holders may be concerned about the high cost of litigation in China. But here, I'd like to mention that the litigation cost will be covered by the damages. And currently, there is also a trend in China where damages in IP infringement cases are increasing. And after the IPR infringement was found, then we can file a lawsuit. But the lawsuit is not always the best choice. And according to my experience and the trends that the Chinese court will accept more electronic evidence in China, and also the court will help both parties to make a reconciliation. I'd like to say sometimes if the settlement, namely the negotiation, properly conducted, then it can bring more advantages than the litigation. For example, it can bring a faster payment of the compensation, or sometimes it can also make a cooperation between these two parties. And one of the most important issues is also it can avoid the uncertainty of the judgment of the Chinese courts. So for foreign companies, the negotiation, namely the settlement, might be a good choice in some cases. So further, together with what I have explained, I'd like to give some advices, small advices for foreign companies. Before the foreign companies enters the Chinese market, it's necessary and important to conduct an IPR database research. This kind of research aims to find and to check if your trademarks, patent, or copyright can still be registered in China. And in addition to such kind of research, I would like to suggest making a corresponding IPR application as soon as possible. Here, I'd like to take the trademark application as an example. If you want to apply for a trademark in China, at first, we have to conduct the trademark registration and to find if they are already similar or same trademarks in China. And after you have decided to apply for a particular trademark in China, you have to register the trademarks not only in the English words, but also in the Chinese language. This is very important in China. And the third small tip for trademark application is about well-known trademark. In some cases, if you want to fight against IP infringement, you can also apply for a well-known trademark recognition in China. And after the company enters into the Chinese market, you should also pay attention to the IPR enforcement to protect your rights. And if you find someone has infringed or someone has registered your trademarks or patents in China in bad faith, you have to take measures like filing invalidation or opposition, etc. And all in all, I'd like to say it's necessary and important to develop a IPR registration and enforcement strategy if you want into Chinese market or you have already entered into the Chinese markets. So that's what we want to show today. And if you have questions, just feel free to contact us. And we can also talk about further questions and topics in the Q&A session.